Peugeot's third generation 3008 has evolved into a sleeker, more sophisticated kind of mid-sized family SUV with an all-new STLA platform. There's now a full EV version to sit alongside hybrid and PHEV variants, and cutting-edge looks and cabin tech. It's just a question of whether you'll like the way it drives. Peugeot's 3008 is a more sophisticated thing in this third generation form, as we're about to see. Rarely has a car evolved so much over its history as the Peugeot 3008. The first generation version of 2007 was an MPV, but the Mark II design of 2016 switched roles and became a crossover with a 7-seat derivative, the 5008. Now, that second generation 3008 sold well, 1.3 million units in 130 countries, which is why late 2023 saw the announcement of the third generation model that we look at here, which again supports a 7-seat 5008 spin-off model. This time round, once again, the 3008 has evolved into something different, though not so very different. Now Peugeot wants us to see this mid-sized model as a fastback SUV. In other words, a family SUV with a swept-back sporty roofline. There are plenty of those already in the segment: hybrids, PHEVs and full EVs, and Peugeot wants to target them all. So all three of these kinds of powertrain are being offered here. Today we've got the full EV setup. This Mark III model's all-new STLA architecture was primarily designed around, a platform that in future will underpin over 2 million cars a year from the various Stellantis Group brands. What does it generate in this one? You'll need the industry's most comprehensive review, the Car and Driving Road Test, to find out. This is a dynamic looking car, and when you set off in it, familiarising yourself with the wrist flick responses possible via this tiny iCockpit style steering wheel, you initially feel that it might drive that way too. True, the previous generation version of this model would never have been a good segment selection for an enthusiastic driver, but everything about this replacement third generation 3008 design has been changed. Except, it turns out, the drive demeanour it delivers, which is still very much at the less involving end of this sector's very modest spectrum. Earlier 3008s were also like this, but with those, particularly the original first generation version, there was the compensation of a very comfortable standard of ride, which isn't really delivered here, particularly in the E3008 EV variant we're driving today, a model rather hobbled by its prodigious weight. Electric vehicles are always heavy, of course, but this one's 2.1 tonne curb figure is particularly bulky, over 200 kilograms heavier than key rivals like the Tesla Model Y and the Renault Scenic E-Tech Electric, both of which have bigger batteries. Part of the reason for that is that unlike those and other class rivals, this Mark III 3008 design has to carry around a new STLA medium platform really designed to support a slightly larger car, the 7-seat 5008 version of this model. That's also why, unlike a lot of competitors, all mainstream versions of this 3008 are front-driven. A rear-driven format, like you get in, say, a Volkswagen ID4 or a Polestar 2, would have made it difficult to package in that 5008 model's third seating row. So, to some extent, this Peugeot's a little hamstrung for reasons outside its control, which also include the fact that the power plants most customers will initially choose with this model aren't the full EV powertrain it was primarily designed around. Back in the pre-COVID era, when this P64 model was being planned, it must have seemed obvious to Peugeot's engineers that by 2024, all that a mid-sized SUV like this would need would be a full EV power plant. It hasn't turned out that way. Customers refusing to be browbeaten by bureaucracy into abandoning combustion power. So quite late in this model's development, Peugeot had to package in the alternative of 2 additional fossil-fueled units. For the time being, the majority of 3008 sales are expected to be accounted for by the frugal 1.2-litre 48-volt self-charging eDSC6 hybrid engine that featured in final versions of the previous P84 second generation 3008 design. And for combustion-minded 3008 customers who still want suburban EV provision, Peugeot has developed a more competitive version of the 1.6-litre PHEV plug-in hybrid unit that never really found favour with the old P84 era 3008. The 48-volt self-charging hybrid you may already be familiar with from other Stellantis Group models. A pure-tech 3-cylinder petrol engine mated to a bespoke 6-speed dual-clutch auto gearbox, featuring a 22 brake horsepower electric motor built into its casing and energised by a tiny 0.89 kilowatt-hour battery. There's a total output of 136 horsepower, enough for a modest 230 newton meters of torque, which explains the equally modest 1.2-tonne braked towing weight, and to some extent the leisurely performance figures. Whether 1.2 litres really works with a curb weight of 1.6 tonnes is debatable. Rest to 62 miles an hour takes 10.2 seconds en route to 125 miles an hour. Though essentially a mild hybrid unit, this one can run the car solely on electric power at low speeds, and in urban conditions, Peugeot claims, can do so for up to 50% of the time. If you want more but don't want an EV, then you'll be directed to the plug-in hybrid 195 version based around a 150 horsepower 1.6 litre petrol engine mated to a 21 kilowatt-hour battery that energises a 125 horsepower electric motor, which claims to be able to drive the car for around 48 miles purely on electric power. As we said at the beginning though, the 3008 that this French maker really wants you to have is the E3008 model we're trying here. The standard front-driven version supplied for this test has a 210 brake horsepower electric motor energised by a 73 kilowatt-hour battery pack, which when fully charged offers a range of up to 326 miles. If you select Sport, the most urgent of the 3 provided drive modes, the others are Normal and Eco, 62 miles an hour from rest takes 8.8 seconds en route to 105 miles an hour. If that's not enough, the STLA chassis has also been engineered for an even heavier long-range 98 kilowatt-hour battery, which needs a gutsier 227 brake horsepower motor and claims a range of 435 miles. The platform has additionally been engineered for a dual-motor all-wheel drive flagship version, which uses a 73 kilowatt-hour battery but offers a 316 brake horsepower combined output. As we said, it's the mainstream front-driven 73 kilowatt-hour E3008 model we're trying here, which offers 3 levels of regenerative braking through its steering wheel paddles. But even the fiercest of these doesn't come close to replicating the abrupt one-pedal speed retardation off-throttle that you'll get from some rivals. As we suggested earlier, you'll feel this car's considerable weight through the turns, and the wrist flick responses promised by the little steering wheel don't translate into a rack with much feel when you most need it at speed through tight corners when you're running late. Then there's the rather wooden quality of ride we mentioned earlier, which hasn't been much improved by this E3008 model switch to multi-link rear suspension from the cruder twist beam setup used by the 48-volt hybrid. Plus points with this Peugeot EV are regained with impressive levels of refinement, which would make this an excellent long journeying companion for EV customers unafflicted by the scourge of range anxiety. If you choose this 3008, it'll probably primarily be because you like the way it looks. The sleek Fastback styling, the distinctive slim 3D rear light panel, and the unusual cat's ear rear spoiler. From the side, you'll pick up the switch to Fastback SUV coupe style design this time round. If you want a conventional boxier shape, well, that's provided by the 7-seat 5008 version of this design. Now, this is a bigger 3008 than its predecessor, 54mm wider and around 100mm longer than before, though at 4.5 metres in length, it's still one of the more compact cars in its mid-sized category. You might also think it to be a rather more stylish thing than some of its rivals, bereft of many body lines and featuring Range Rover-like hidden waistline seals. Wheel sizes are usually 19-inch, but with this E3008 in this top GT trim, you get these aero-style 20-inch alloys, the kind of bigger range-sapping rims you wouldn't have thought an electric vehicle would want. GT spec also comes with this black diamond contrast colour roof, plus gloss black finishing for the wheel arches and lower sills, and a Peugeot shield on the front wings. The front is characterised by this distinctive 3-claw lighting signature and ultra-compact LED headlamps, though they'll only be full LEDs if you opt for this GT level of trim. The Peugeot shield sits proudly on a front grille intricately fashioned with a body-coloured cascading pattern. At the rear, that floating style spoiler we mentioned is supposed to enhance the curvaceous bodywork and emphasise the 1.89 metre width. The 3-claw light signature is familiar from other Peugeot models, and with this GT trim level, these clusters are of this 3D LED kind. As usual, of course, what's more important is what you can't see: the stiff, sophisticated STLA medium platform that undergirds this third-generation model. Walk up to the car and the lights flash as it automatically unlocks itself. Will it be as avant-garde inside? In a word, yes. Peugeot says it's set out to deliver a high-quality lounge-like experience. Well, it's certainly nothing like anything you'll have tried before. A cockpit-like feel is delivered by this unusual fabric-trimmed central spine, which flows towards the separated dashboard. That dash is also quite different. Instead of the usual central monitor stuck awkwardly in the middle of the fascia, there's now this smart, floating, curved 21-inch HD panoramic screen that not only seamlessly combines the instrument and infotainment displays, but is also slightly raised so that it can act as a head-up display too. Behind it is this elegant concave aluminium panel onto which shades from the ambient lighting system are projected. It's all very high-end and unusually designed. There's a vast swathe of sustainably sourced fascia fabric flowing from the dash into the doors. The door switchgear panels angle down while the centre console spine angles up and has hidden storage in this lower section. Perhaps most notably, Peugeot has persisted with an evolved version of the previous model's so-called iCockpit front-of-cabin layout. This sees use of a tiny steering wheel, here redesigned, over the top of which, rather than through the spokes of which, you're expected to view the instruments. Don't worry, you'll get used to it. To start with, you'll probably keep reaching down to find the e-toggle gear selector, to no avail, because it's been reduced in size and relocated to an almost vertical van-like position next to the starter button on the fascia. You control many of the infotainment display's functions via this row of virtual iToggle switches on this narrow, smaller screen below the centre vents. Swipe across its surface and you'll find that there are 10 different shortcut options, twice as many as with the old car. These can be set to deal with basic things like cabin temperature or fan speed, or maybe more eclectic things that are just for you, like navigate home or a one-shot click to your favourite radio station. And on that subject, the cabin can be set for up to 8 different driver profiles, bespoke with ambient lighting, navigation and audio settings. Unlike Tesla, Peugeot still thinks you need column stalks, and it's via the ends of these that you control what you view on the instrument screen ahead. The key info on that screen covers digital speed and gear selection, Just above this, you're briefed on driver assist functionality and the prevailing speed limit, while just below the digital speedo lies a Charge Eco power meter just above a little Peugeot French tricolour. There are various instrument screen layouts selectable via a click on the end of this left stalk. 3 of these move the digital speedo with its associated info to the left to make extra space for either nav mapping, a car graphic with a battery indicator, or a larger Charge Eco power meter. There's also a minimalistic layout with just a few basic readouts, or you can have the digital speedo flanked by circular information gauges with audio info and a battery meter on the left and trip data on the right. The right circle data you see controlled by clicks on the right-hand wheel stalk. Now, pretty much anything else that you might need to know will be on this central infotainment display, another thing completely redesigned for this 3rd generation model. We've talked about the iToggle virtual keys that work with it, but of course you can touch the screen surface too, or interact with this monitor via voice control. The home screen is minimalistic with temperature meters either side. Swipe left and those meters flank a nav map. Swipe left again and rows of little icons appear to the right of a car graphic with a battery indicator. These icons include what Peugeot calls an application drawer, which on this E3008 incorporates an energy section. Via that, you can set charging times, view an energy flow meter, monitor the powertrain's energy use, or using a history section, graphically oversee recent consumption in miles per kilowatt hour over the last 30, 60 or 300 miles. Enough on screens. What else might you need to know? Well, the redesigned dynamic seats are much more supportive than the chairs in the previous generation model, though you don't get lumbar adjustment unless you stretch to this top GT trim. They can feature new electric adaptive side bolsters for increased lateral support and have been approved by the AGR, that's the German campaign organisation for healthier backs. You sit quite high, build quality is good, and the materials used feel classy. Plus, despite the avant-garde design, the ergonomics are fine. Crucial controls like audio volume, hazard flashes, and the drive mode controller reside on the near part of this center console spine, which as it nears the dash spears away to the left with shortcut climate functions. Amongst these is an added quick launch feature which automatically sets the cabin for rapid heating or cooling. What about cabin storage? Well, Peugeot says there are up to 17 storage spaces with an overall volume of nearly 34 litres. These include the hidden lidded cubby that we mentioned earlier, which sits just ahead of the cup holders on the lower part of the centre console and includes twin USB ports and a 12-volt socket. There's also an overhead sunglasses compartment, deep door pockets and ticket clips in the sun visors, but irritatingly, as with the previous design, right-hand drive models like this one have a glove box halved in size by the fuse box. There doesn't seem to be any priority amongst Peugeot's designers to sort this issue out. A wireless smartphone charging mat is standard and can Bluetooth link to handsets simultaneously. For better call quality, Peugeot has equipped the cabin with 2 microphones, one above each front seat occupant. And you can, of course, wirelessly connect your handset using Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Time to take a look in the rear seat. Will that switch to Fastback Coupe SUV styling hurt this 3rd generation 3008 here? Well, you'll probably have to duck a little more to get in. But once inside, headroom's actually not too bad, provided you decide not to pay extra for the optional panoramic glass roof. Now, this bench doesn't do anything clever like slide or feature a reclining backrest, but the high-mounted front seats make it easier to slip your feet beneath them. which is just as well because despite this Mark III model's extra 64mm of wheelbase length, leg space isn't actually that generous for a car of this size. A central adult wouldn't be particularly comfortable. If there are only two of you, you'll be able to use this central armrest, which incorporates twin cup holders and a pen tray, but is only standard with top GT trim. Little rear quarter-light windows help with the rather dark ambience, and there are netted seat back pockets, deep door bins, and little beady overhead reading lights. Plus, below the centre vents, you'll find USB connectivity, a 12-volt socket, and a couple of cubbies. There are coat hooks on the B-pillars, but the rear headrests are of the sort that dig uncomfortably into your back until you raise them. Let's finish with a look out back. The tailgate's quite heavy, so it's a pity that it doesn't get powered operation with volume Allure spec. Where it is electric, on this GT version, you can activate it with a swipe of your foot beneath the bumper and tailor the height it raises to suit your garage ceiling. As with the previous generation 3008, the cargo area is generously sized with a capacity of 588 litres, though that drops to 470 litres on all-wheel drive E3008 models. Because the STLA medium platform isn't bespoke just for EVs, this E3008 model offers no underbonnet frunk space for the charging leads, so to try and make up for that, lots of space is provided beneath this boot floor, though only because Peugeot declines to provide any kind of spare wheel. Here's a nice touch. Little sidewall catches that allow you to position this height adjustable boot floor at 45 degrees so that you can more easily get at what's underneath. Why don't all brands provide that? There are recessed spaces either side of this cargo area, though only very small ones, so that you can more easily fit bulky items in widthwise, like say a golf bag or a pushchair. As well as the usual bag hooks and tie downs, there's a 12-volt socket and an elasticated strap on the left and a light on the right. The ride height is quite a way off the ground though, 774mm, so older dogs may need a hand up. The backrest can't be made more vertical to more easily get awkwardly shaped pieces of luggage in, but if you've long items like skis to accommodate alongside a couple of rear-seated passengers, you'll be glad of its convenient 40-20-40 split. When it's flat, up to 1,663 litres of space is available from this front-driven model. Pricing for this E3008 full EV at the time of this test in summer 2024 was starting from around £46,000 for the entry-level single-motor 73 kWh front-driven version. It's £2,700 more for the bigger battery 98 kWh E3008 model. All those figures get you base Allure trim. In all three cases, spending around £3,500 more will get you the top GT spec variant. It's the E3008 73 kWh GT model that we're trying here, costing around £50,000 as we compiled this review. As that figure suggests, and as usual with a mid-sized EV crossover these days, the sums involved here aren't inconsequential. From launch, an E3008 with the 98 kWh battery and GT trim was costing well over £52,000. But rivals are charging much the same, and unlike nearly all its competitors, Peugeot also offers you the option of 7-seater space in a car of this kind. Its 5008 model has all the same engineering and offers 3 rows of seats at a model-for-model price premium of £2,700 over this 3008. We mentioned rivals. At this size and price point, there are of course plenty of them. If you're after the hybrid, you'll find the same 48-volt self-charging engine available at a considerable price saving with another Stellantis group model, the Citroën C5 Aircross Hybrid 136e DSC6. There's less of a price gap to the other Stellantis models in this sector that use the same power plant, the hybrid versions of Vauxhall's Grandland and Alfa Romeo's Junior. Similarly priced hybrid rivals outside of Stellantis include the Renault Austral and hybrid versions of the Kia Sportage and the Hyundai Tucson. You'd need a bit more for a Honda ZR-V, a Toyota RAV4 or the hybrid version of Ford's Kuga. Some cars in this class are only available with ineffectual mild hybrid tech, like the Mazda CX-5 or mainstream versions of the Jeep Compass, and others only with a much pricier PHEV drivetrain, like the MG HS, the Cupra Formentor, the Volkswagen Tiguan and the BYD Seal UDMI. Rivals to this E3008 full EV are plentiful. The most obvious one is the Vauxhall Grandland electric model that shares all the same engineering. But the money being asked here is also the kind of budget that would also get you a Polestar 2, a Kia EV6, a Hyundai Ioniq 5, a Mini Countryman electric, a Nissan Ariya, Volkswagen's ID4, Toyota's BZ4X, an electric Alfa Romeo Junior, Renault's Scenic E-Tech electric, a BYD Seal, Ford's Capri and Explorer models, and Tesla's Model 3 and Model Y. If you want premium badged class contenders like the BMW iX1, the Mercedes EQA and the Audi Q4 e-tron, you'll not only need to pay a bit more, but also be prepared to accept a bit less cabin space. If, having considered all of that, you conclude that it is a 3008 of some kind that you really want, then you're going to need to know about spec. So let's take a look at that now. Base Allure trim includes 19-inch alloy wheels, eco LED headlights, rear parking sensors, a reversing camera, cruise control, power folding mirrors, rear privacy glass, keyless entry, an alarm and body coloured accents for the front grille. Inside this third generation model's new 21-inch HD panoramic curved display incorporating the instrument panel and central touchscreen is standard. The infotainment system including navigation, voice recognition and wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone mirroring. Plus there's ambient lighting linked to the drive modes, a wireless smartphone charging pad, an electrochrome rearview mirror and aluminium pedals. This GT spec is visually set apart by a black diamond contrasting roof and a rear spoiler, as well as gloss black trimmed lower door claddings and wheel arch surrounds, plus a Peugeot shield on the front wings. The GT versions also get pixel LED headlights with adaptive high beams, 3D LED rear lights, adaptive cruise control with stop and go functions, a hands-free opening tailgate and front parking sensors. GT electric models get larger 20-inch wheels too. Inside, GT spec gets you upholstery in Alcantara with faux leather trimming, aluminium dashboard trim, luxury carpet mats, plus a heated steering wheel, front seat lumbar adjustment, extended 8-colour ambient lighting, a frameless version of the electrochrome rearview mirror, and a rear centre armrest. On to options. Unless you choose your 3008 in this test car's Obsession Blue, which changes from blue to green depending on the light, you'll need to pay Peugeot more for your choice of paint colour. In total there are 6 shades to choose from. Other things we'd suggest that you hold a bit of budget back for are the advanced grip control system, which adds 3 extra driving modes for slippery conditions, and on the E3008 a heat pump which will help preserve driving range in cold weather. You might also want a tow bar and the usual roof crossbars. If you want to spoil yourself, you can add Napa Mistral black perforated full grain leather upholstery. And on this GT version, your dealer's also going to want you to look at the Sensation Pack. Now that includes a panoramic glass roof, an air quality system and a Focal 10 speaker 690 watt premium hi-fi setup. Standard safety kit, well, that includes the expected active safety brake automatic braking system, lane keeping assist, driver attention alert, traffic sign recognition and excessive speed warning systems. Plus there's a post-collision safety brake setup, so if you have a collision and you will go to pieces, the car will sort itself out. And there's the usual traction control, tyre pressure monitoring and front, side and curtain airbags linked to emergency eCall, SOS and assistance. Allure trim though does without high beam assist, and on all models you have to pay extra for the 360-degree vision and drive assist pack we've got fitted here if you want blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert. That pack also includes a 360-degree camera system, and on this GT variant, Peugeot's Highway Assist 2.0 semi-autonomous highway driving setup that can almost drive the car for you at cruising speeds with lane positioning assist, semi-automatic lane change and recommended speed adaptation. Let's start with the Hybrid 136e DSC6 48-volt variant. This manages up to 52.5 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and up to 122 grams per kilometre of CO2. Peugeot reckons that this model's 48-volt mild hybrid petrol engine technology reduces fuel consumption by 15%, with these savings mostly being achieved during urban driving, where the brand claims the car can run on just electric power for up to 50% of the time. At the time of this review, we didn't have the efficiency figures for the alternative combustion model, the plug-in hybrid 195 version, apart from an indication that its 21 kilowatt-hour battery would take the car around 48 miles on battery power. The full electric E3008, as we said in our driving section, is somewhat hobbled by its prodigious 2.1 tonne curb weight, which in its home market has seen it fall foul of draconian parking charges for heavier SUVs that were voted in quite recently. Now, we gave you the main EV range figures earlier, 326 miles for this front-driven 73 kilowatt-hour model, or 435 miles for the alternative long-range 98 kilowatt-hour front-driven model. To get near to these, you'll have to make frequent use of the provided Eco drive mode and the various settings, low, medium and high, of the regenerative braking system. Peugeot claims a best-in-class efficiency figure of 4.5 miles per kilowatt-hour for this front-driven 73 kilowatt-hour variant. This is aided by eco tyres, friction-reducing bearings, a slippery drag coefficient of 0.28 CD, and if you pay extra, a heat pump which will preserve range in cold weather. As for E3008 charging, well, a little surprisingly, the STLA medium platform hasn't been engineered with the 800-volt architecture that would enable use of the latest breed of ultra-rapid DC public chargers. But with its 400-volt system, the E3008 can charge at up to 160 kilowatts, which allows for 20 to 80% charges in 20 minutes, with a charging rate of 2.4 kilowatt-hour per minute at its peak, at which point 62 miles of range are added every 10 minutes. For AC charging from home, the E3008 can charge at up to 11 kilowatts as standard, or even up to 22 kilowatts if you tick the correct option box. A full AC charge using a 7.4 kilowatt wall box would take 10.5 hours, so it'll only just about be possible overnight, and a full charge won't be possible at all if you have a late finish and an early start. The E3008 is also capable of V2L vehicle-to-load charging, which means that you can use the car as a power source for household appliances or something like a laptop. Via the My Peugeot smartphone app or by using the vehicle's touchscreen, owners can schedule a wake-up time for the battery. This means that the cells can be at the optimum temperature for efficiency from the time that you charge up. Plus, of course, the interior can also be pre-cooled or preheated. Owners can opt to purchase a single service plan to cover all essential maintenance. Service intervals for all 3008s are every year or 20,000 miles, and with the E3008 EV you'll be given a certificate of battery capacity after each service. Now, both batteries come with an 8-year 100,000 mile warranty for up to 70% of capacity, as by the way do the two smaller batteries used by the hybrid models. For the Hybrid 136 variant, insurance groupings are 22E for Allure or 24E for GT. For this 73 kWh E3008, insurance groupings are 32E for the Allure and 33E for this GT. This third generation 3008 is a thorough evolution of what was already a thoroughly modern mid-sized SUV. It seems to have emerged from the kind of customer clinic research suggesting that stylish looks, premium high-tech cabin ambience, practicality and affordable running costs are all that really matters to a modern family when it comes to their choice of this class of car. If you agree that's true, you'll find plenty to like here, even if you don't stretch to the E3008 full EV variant this Mark III range has been primarily designed around. Those in search of a more engagingly characterful crossover of this kind may well wish for more, but those people are rarely served well by cars in this segment, and in the past they're not the kind of people who would have chosen a 3008 anyway. So this car has changed in almost every way, but the people it will primarily appeal to haven't. Perhaps that's a form of progress.